Hello everyone, this is a lesson on addition and subtraction of fractions. There are 5 steps that we'll follow. So I'm going to use an example to explain each step. Step number 1, it says factorize. When you factorize, mainly we are talking about the denominator. You need to factorize the denominator. Right? In this example that we have 2 fractions. We have 1 over m plus n, and then plus 3mn over m cubed plus n cubed. So when you factorize, you need to look, do you have difference of 2 squares? Can you take out a common factor? Is it a trinomial? So when you look at this first one, you cannot factorize. So you're going to write an equal sign here because it's an expression. Then you write 1 over m plus n. Now this one, when you look at our denominator, it's a sum of 2 cubes. This is a cube and this is a cube, and you have a plus. So you write your denominator and then you factorize. You remember when you factorize the sum, you have 2 brackets. In the first bracket, it's a cube root of m to the power 3, which is m, plus you write the same sign, the cube root of n, which is n. Cube root of n to the power 3, it's n, right? And then in the next bracket is the first term times the first term, so it's m squared. Then you change the sign. If the sign is positive, you write it as negative, and you multiply the 2 terms, so it's m n. And then the last one, it's m times m, it will be plus, the last term is always positive, n squared. So because it's n times n. This is how you factorize a trinomial. Now let's look at the next step. Right, let's close this bracket first. Right now, our next step says multiply each fraction so that the denominator is the same. Okay, before, no, I'm here. Find the LCM. Find the LCD. The LCD is the lowest common denominator. So how do you do that? You go to the first fraction, then you factorize the denominator. Now this one has only one factor. So my factor for this first one is m plus n. That's the only factor that I have. With the next denominator, I have 2 factors. I have m plus n and m squared minus mn plus mn squared. So this one, I'm going to write under this because it's the same. When you have factors that are the same, you write them underneath each other. And then for this factor, it's not the same as any one. I'm going to write it alone. And then my lowest common denominator, I will take 1 term from each column. So it's m plus n and m squared minus mn plus n squared. This is my lowest denominator, right? So the next step, what am I going to do with the lowest common denominator? Number 3, I'm going to multiply each fraction so that the denominator is the same. The denominator will be the same and is the same as the lowest common denominator. All right? So here, I'm going to look at this denominator and I ask myself, what can I multiply to this denominator so that I have the lowest common denominator? So 1 over m plus n. This is my fraction. What am I going to multiply here to have this? I have this factor already, so I'm going to multiply this factor. So I'm going to multiply m squared minus mn plus n squared. But this thing was not there, so I must multiply it, numerator and denominator. If the numerator and the denominator is the same, that thing is 1. So if I'm multiplying by 1, I'm not changing the fraction. So whatever I added in the denominator, I will add it in the numerator as well as a factor. Okay, fine. Then the next one. In the next fraction, what can I multiply to this denominator to have that? I need to multiply 1 because I have exactly the same as that. So with this fraction here, nothing is going to change. I'm going to write the fraction exactly like it is, because my lowest common denominator is the same as the denominator for that fraction. Okay, let's look at the next step. Okay, the next step is write all fractions with one denominator. It means both fractions, I'm just going to have one denominator. So my denominator, do you see the denominator is the same? Let me close. This denominator and that denominator is the same. So I have m plus n, then I have m squared minus mn plus n squared. So I have one denominator. Now I'm going to multiply this. Now you multiply the numerators to find the product. 1 times m is m squared. 1 times n is mn plus n squared. Now here I have nothing to multiply, so I'm going to just add plus 3nm, right? Then the next thing, I have to close my bracket. The next thing, I'm going to add like terms here if they are. Now we take like terms together, m squared, then mn minus mn and plus 3mn, which will give you plus 2mn. mn and nm is the same thing, and then plus n squared. The denominators stay the same and don't multiply it out. Leave it like in factors. Don't multiply it out. Right, now you have a trinomial. You factorize the trinomial. It's m plus n and m plus n, right? And then your denominator is m plus n, m squared minus mn minus, it's not minus, it's plus n squared. Now because everything is in brackets, you can cancel. This mn will cancel this mn, and your answer will be m plus n divided by m squared minus mn plus n squared. Now here you can't cancel. Now it's terms. You can't cancel terms. This is your final answer. You stop here. You can't cancel anything. This is the end of our lesson. Thank you for watching.